Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to Group D. I'm John. I've had the pleasure of working with Andrea, Malik, Michelle, Chris, Eric, and Lauren. I'll be joined tonight by Chris and Malik, and together we'll be exploring our case analysis of Dove, the evolution of a brand, which entails the inception, planning, and execution of Dove's infamous campaign for real beauty. We found it most effective to approach the methods, results, and recommended strategies for this campaign by breaking it down simply into past, present, and future analysis. We feel this model pairs very well with the diffusion of innovation theory, as the progress of the campaign's financial metrics follows a similar pattern, actually consistently rising since the campaign's inception. Study the past if you would define the future. At its absolute core, this marketing campaign is the result of honest women's intuition and formulating a tangible marketing strategy to challenge and eventually eliminate traditional beauty standards within the industry. At the turn of the century, Unilever recognized that soap now only comprised less than half of Dove's total sales. From a marketing perspective, it was time to effectively reinvent Dove's brand perception into a true beauty brand. This was Dove's opportunity to spark a global conversation, about reinventing our definition of beauty within the industry. This was a strategized, shock and awe campaign against an industry that traditionally used images of physical perfection to inflict feelings of inferiority in hopes that the average consumer will buy their product. This campaign had perfectly aligned itself with the beginnings of what would actually become one of the most progressive eras in American history. The media exposure that followed the campaign's launch yielded over $150 million in absolutely free media coverage. Models from the campaign were being invited onto Ellen, the Today Show. There was a real conversation happening on not only a national but also a global scale. Relatability to the models was improving women consumers' self-appraisals. These positive feelings that directly inspired loyalty to the Dove brand. By 2006, it was reported that two-thirds of Dove sales were now comprised of customers who purchased multiple Dove products. This number doubled that same statistic that was taken back in 2003, and this was before the campaign launched. Over a 10-year period, revenues nearly doubled. This was an average annual growth of over 7%, and this was an incredible success given that they experienced these soaring revenue growth rates even though the Great Recession years were in place. What's perhaps even more incredible is the fact that their operating profits nearly tripled during that same time frame. On average, operating profit growth of the segment during this 10-year period was nearly 10%. This is a tremendous growth rate for any company, but particularly so for a company that's as large as Unilever. And especially in a market that was already as mature as the personal care market. Now I'll be turning over your attention to Chris. He's going to be addressing the present nature of the campaign for real beauty. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, John. Now we'll take a look at Dove in the present day. So Dove's campaign for real beauty continues to evolve. It's continuing to be active now in 2018. They continue to use it as a mass market approach, leveraging social media as opposed to traditional advertising to reach the market. They've taken two new kind of sub-campaigns in recent years. One is Dove Men Care, and another is called the Dove Self-Esteem Project. Men Care is aimed primarily at the adult male population of the market, while the Self-Esteem Project is aimed primarily at preteens and teens, and these two campaigns are sub-campaigns are kind of founded under similar missions to the Real Beauty campaign, but they have missions that kind of resonate both with adult females, the traditional target, the traditional consumer, maybe for the Dove brand, but they're also kind of linking in now to the male population as well as to the teen and preteen market. Social media, a double-edged sword. So in recent years, I think Dove has found that social media can be a great thing, but it can also be a detriment to the brand. If you take a misstep, it's amplified. So this is something that we found that was noteworthy as to how Dove moves forward. Social responsibility. We found that Unilever, the parent company of Dove, has a great track record, and they've made tremendous progress in recent years in terms of social responsibility and sustainability. And we think this really, provides a great credibility for Dove as it moves forward, and maybe to start a dialogue in an area of sustainability or social responsibility through a similar medium to how they're getting the Real Beauty message out today. So we did kind of a SWOT analysis for the Dove marketing campaign. In terms of strengths, we of course have brand equity that will transcend traditional product life cycle. We minimize marketing costs by having one message. It's appealing to values that are desirable by younger generations or millennials. Some of the weaknesses are that the Real Beauty subject matter is getting quite old at this point, and it might be losing a little bit of its luster. There's limited flexibility, of course, with a mass market campaign to target specific segments. And it's very important to maintain perceived level of authenticity in the message and avoid kind of negative feedback because there's a risk with social media that it can have a huge detriment on your market. In terms of opportunities, social responsibility, as we said, is kind of a strong point for Dove and the Unilever umbrella of companies, and maybe this can be tied into their marketing campaign to get this out. Also, sustainable and natural products. Unilever has acquired a bunch of prestige brands in this space in recent years. Not that they would be necessarily integrated with Dove in any way. However, this just shows that there's a trend in that direction, a trend of consumer behavior, and maybe Dove, to a smaller extent, can leverage this and get some elements into their products or into their packaging that's sustainable or natural to kind of ensure continued market growth. In terms of threats, we talked about the risk of going viral. Another threat is the competition from organic products. So this can be an opportunity or a threat, and they need to make sure it's an opportunity as opposed to a threat. So with that, I'll turn it over to Malik, who will take us into the future.
So, what does the future hold for Dove and to ensure for them to be successful? We're going to take a look at 2018 to 28 over the next 5 to 10 years and propose a marketing strategy that we believe will ensure Dove's success in the future. We believe there are 3 keys to Dove's success. One, to continue to have us focus on the brand, which we believe will continue to strengthen their product sales. The second, a marketing strategy that relates to millennials. And lastly, a continued push to expand their market by engaging in issues that their expanded market are really going to believe in. Promoting your brand. We found that there's a major difference between brand marketing and product marketing. Brand marketing involves building an image of the company while identifying particular attributes and strengths. With product marketing, you're focusing more on the benefits of the item you're trying to sell, how it looks, how big it is, its price points, if it's expensive or if it's, a quality, very expensive item. Dove has done an amazing job promoting their brand identity and has carried over into their products. The Real Beauty campaign is still in existence today, and it started over 10 years ago. It originated over 10 years ago. We believe Dove should continue to focus on their brand in the future, as it has had a positive effect on their financial statements. If you read some of the statistics that you see above, you can see that having a social purpose and engaging in the community is so important to a consumer. We believe if Dove continues to do those things in the future, it's only going to make them even more successful. Now, having a social purpose is not the only thing that they need to focus on in the future. With millennials most likely being Dove's primary source of revenue in the near future, along with the fact that they're the parents of the next target generation, it's important that they market their needs and wants. The market to the millennials' needs and wants. So how do you market to a millennial? One thing we know from our previous slides is that millennials are really big on corporate citizenship. So finding ways to use more organic and natural products will only help them in their attempt to market to this group. Additionally, Unilever's purchase of a few organic companies could possibly, for Dove, possibly be a good opportunity for Dove to use some of those ingredients to come up with products uh, that are natural or just organic, to be able to kind of leverage that acquisition in that type of way to really engage items that millennials are very interested in, and we believe will be very beneficial to the brand overall. Additionally, Dove has to remember that they're not only garnering the trust of millennials, but they're also garnering the trust of the children of millennials. You have kids and teens that are under whose parents are millennials or will be millennials in the next 5 to 10 years, and what that parent tells their kid is something that sticks with that kid for a very long time. So we really think that trust that that millennials can provide and that they can instill in their children are going to also be very beneficial to Dove. So what else can they do? The next slide is probably one of my favorite slides. It has basically all we did was took a Google search of Dove women, and we did another Google search of Dove men, and the Dove women Google search came back with all these different women, different ethnicities, different characteristics, different attributes, and the Dove men just came back with a bunch of Dove bottles. So what does that tell you? It tells you that there's a history and a foundation, a story surrounding Dove women, and really not one for Dove men. And to be honest, Dove has made some strides in trying to attract issues that deal with men and children and teens. They have the Dove Men campaign that supports paternity leave, and for Dove kids, they have the self-esteem campaigns, and we think those are great. In the future, we would suggest for Dove to just continue in that direction and really try to build that brand and really have a product that both men and women can feel proud of and know that their thoughts and feelings are put first. Going into that same kind of category, if you even just look at the financials of Dove men compared to Dove women, you can see the growth that Dove men have had over the last this is over the last 4 years, from 2014 to 2018. I believe the slides go in and talk about would you consider Dove to be your next product in hair care or skin? And you can see that in hair care, Dove is really almost surpassing Dove women. So it's a good reason why Dove should really continue on promoting their brand and promoting to men, because it's a big part of their portfolio. This type of growth is special, and I know that as a man, I'm very loyal to brands that I have, and I believe if Dove continues that type of promotion to that group, it's only going to provide dividends for them in the future. Thank you.